The Joe Rogan Experience.
I've been paying attention to a lot of your stuff covering the Palisades fire and all that stuff, and I think I'm really glad that there's someone like you out there that gets to shine light on these things and show people how fucked up this whole thing was. You know, we talked about it on the podcast that you immediately, once the fire happened, you were like, no one's rebuilding. Like, you don't understand the Coastal Commission. You don't understand the permitting process. This is going to be like this forever.
Yeah.
And you're right. Look at, here we are. Like, it's almost a year later, right? How
Yep.
many months later is it? 10, 11?
10 and change.
10?
Yeah.
Okay. No one's rebuilt the house.
No, there's a little bit of building going on in the Palisades, but there's zero in Malibu.
Coastal, yeah.
There's no coastal anything. And I've been monitoring it.
How much has grown on the Palisades? How many houses have been rebuilt?
I would say, less than 5%.
That's
but
crazy.
it's scattered. Like, I toured one that was being framed for the latest vlog, the
Here's
fire
the thing.
vlogs I've been
Even
doing.
if you do rebuild, what is surrounding you? Just wreckage.
Yeah, just
Can you
dirt.
imagine you're on a hill and just the husks of burnt down houses are your view now?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, it's basically you're living in an ashtray.
Yeah.
You put a double wide in an ashtray.
Who knows what the fuck is in that ground?
Well,
You know?
yeah, no, it's all
After
bad.
everything burning and melting and all the chemicals and electric cars and all that shit has gotten into the water table, it's all in the ground.
Yeah, well, some of it's in the bay because it rained and it
Yeah.
just flowed into the sea. I mean, it's a mire of muck, and yeah, it's
Is it
hard.
still bad? Is it still bad?
No, it's okay.
It's
I mean,
sort of filtered out.
You're
out
talking about
into
the ocean,
Yeah.
or the? Yeah, I mean, it's livable. I don't know. I don't know if your doctor would recommend it, but it's livable. But the thing that I've always known is I've always known how burdensome regulation is in Los Angeles, and it's invisible, and that's why we don't have housing, and that's why houses are too expensive, and that's why there's no homeless shelters and housing, and all that stuff is because it's so burdensome to build. They make it so difficult to build that people don't build. And I knew this is what was coming, but other people didn't really know it because they've not dealt with the city, plan check, regulations, plan approval, engineering. Like, this is stuff I'd been doing my whole life. So I knew early on that this wasn't going to happen. And I think people who live in Los Angeles are sort of naive. Like, they just think the Coastal Commission and the city council and plan check and building and safety, like, they're there just to facilitate this stuff. Right. They're not there to facilitate any of it. They're there to deter it.
Yeah.
Like, they want you to go away is basically what it is. So I knew none of this was going to happen. But also there's a thing that I don't think anyone really is aware of, which is they are so overregulated that they make it so difficult to build that people can't afford it, and they're then stymied by it, and they tend to just get discouraged and they go away. They don't do it. So what they do is, like, I was friends with Suzanne Summers and Alan Hamill, and they lived in Malibu, and they loved Malibu, and then their home burnt down years ago. This was another fire, and then they wanted to rebuild the home. But the Coastal Commission made it so difficult that after 5 years of trying, they just went, fuck it, and they moved to Palm Springs. But they wanted to live in Malibu, but they couldn't. And it is so regulated and so difficult, and the hoops they make you go through, and the engineering is insane. There is one place that they're building on Pacific Coast Highway, and I've been down to the construction site and I've looked at it. They're sinking 6-story caissons, so 60-foot caisson cages. They have to drill. So a caisson, you just drill into the earth and you use a huge auger bit, and the hole's like 30 inches around, and you go down 6 stories, and then you drop a rebar cage into it, and then you pump concrete into it, and that's your caisson. There's a house, and it's a small lot, they're going to have 60 of these things into the ground before they can start building.
Is this because of the instability of the ground, like landslides and stuff like that? 'Cause
Well,
they get a lot of that in Malibu, right?
So here's what California does. They go, we're an earthquake country, or whatever they do. But I've lived in houses in California that were built in 1923 and 1929 when they had none of this stuff and they had none of the technology, and they saw their way through many earthquakes, and they're just there. So they blame stuff like earthquake or coastal or whatever it is, and then they make you go 2,000 times further than you needed to go. And I was talking to the guy. I said, how much into this foundation before you can start building? He said, $2.5 million into the ground. That's the ground. That's before the first.
And is this a new standard?
Well, what they do is they just add new ones every year.
Right.
So it just keeps getting more and more and more.
Right.
And then eventually that house becomes impractical to build there because it costs too much money, and then you don't have houses. So that's what we do with all housing in Los Angeles. And that's why the city council's like, we need more housing. And it's like, well, you're not going to get more housing, bitch, because you're over-regulated. And no one can reach that standard, and it's too expensive.
Well, and it's also, then it's not consistent with the houses that are already okay. Like, how about those houses that are, like, on the side of a hill with, like, poles? Just poles stuck into the ground, like half the house is hanging over the hill.
Oh, well, the thing about Malibu is the Malibu Pier is 125 years old, and that's just telephone poles going into the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, all they did back then is take a pile driver and just mash a telephone pole into the ground, and then they'd build many of the houses that burnt down were on those because they were like from the 40s and the 50s. So the foundation was fine. It was the fire that got the house.
Is anybody developing a legitimate fireproof house?
Yes.
Yeah? What's that like? Cement outside?
Yeah, I mean, basically what they're doing is they're doing a cement. Yeah, so it's like the walls are like modular, and it's filled with like foam and like sort of a wire cage, and then the outside they spray on gunite, which is like lightweight cement, and just like trowel it on. So the inside and the outside is essentially cement, but you know, a stucco house is basically cement too. Like really what they're doing now is they're saying, we're going to frame the houses the way we always frame the houses, with wood. Because I think a lot of people go, well, why aren't they using steel or metal studs or concrete? Or like, why aren't they using non-combustible materials? And what they're doing essentially, because I just walked one of these houses in the Palisades, they're building it in a traditional way using wood, but they're making the outside fireproof. They're not going to have the eaves, the rafter tails hanging out, the wooden rafter tails hanging out. They're not going to have the vents to vent the attic where the embers can get into the attic and then get to the wood and cause. Because most of it was just stuff blowing into the attic, and then the house ignited sort of from the inside out.
Right.
So if you do a flat roof, a metal roof, and you do a stucco, glass, aluminum, and you don't do the rafter tails or the eaves, and you don't have any way, then essentially you have this combustible house with a hard candy shell around it that with nothing combustible on that. And so the fire can't get started, essentially.
And how many houses had that? Because you would imagine a lot of houses have been built in the Palisades since like the 2018 fire. There was fires before that. I remember there was a fire in the 90s because this is a funny story. Me and JB Smooth were doing a show in New Jersey, and this was like probably like 92, something like that. And some college in the middle of New Jersey, and it was hard to get, and there was no navigation back then, so it was hard to get to. And so you had to follow, you know, right on this road, left on, and you had a piece of paper you're following. And so I got there. I left early. JB wasn't there yet. I was supposed to headline. And they were like, well, we're going to wait for JB to start the show. I said, okay. So I sat down in the rec room and I started watching this documentary on the Malibu fires. So whatever Malibu fires this was back then. And this guy this kid was calling for his dog, and this guy was crying. He was a fireman, and he was just weeping. Oh, and I was like so depressed. And then they go, look, JB's not coming. He hasn't been here yet. We can't reach him. So we're just going to have you go up. I'm like, okay. And I
Wiping the tears away.
I went on
heading
stage
on
and
stage.
fucking flat out bombed. I just bombed, and then he came in. He finally figured out how to get there, so I brought him up, and he killed. It was
Well, you had the heavy burden of the guy who lost his dog.
It was a very valuable lesson. Do not watch anything depressing right before you go on stage, or listen to anyone that's depressing. Like, if people start saying depressing shit to me in the green room, I'll just go, stop. I can't do this right now. Like, I got to go on stage.
I'm a compartmentalizer.
Really?
I could watch a documentary on the Holocaust and then walk out on stage and go right into it.
I can't do that. That's not me. Yeah, I can't do that. I get too empathetic. I just start thinking, what would I do? What would I do if I was them? And fuck, I can't believe this. But point is, those fires had always been there. Like didn't Flea lose his house up there? I know a lot of people.
Yeah,
lost
a lot.
Up there.
Listen, when I was a carpenter I think it was probably the later '80s. I built a house up. I mean, it wasn't my house, but I worked on a house. Like, I was doing finish work, so I was like hanging doors and doing base and case and stair railings, and like I was doing I was like the finish guy. Mm-hmm. And I showed up on one of our jobs. We had a few jobs going on. I worked for this outfit, but I worked there for like 6 months just doing all the stair railings and the doors and everything. And that house burned to the ground. Like, I went up there some years later, and there was just a foundation there. And I remember, but to speak of me being able to watch a doc on the Holocaust and then go out and do comedy, I was sitting outside. I was with somebody, and all it was the foundation, the whole place. And I said, man, I remember being here, like shaping the oak and making the railings and turning the oak and getting my router out and putting the finish on and everything. And it's all gone. And somebody went, wow, how's it make you feel? And I went, I got paid. I'm cool. Now let's go watch a Holocaust movie.
It's
and
not
hit the
your
stage.
house. But you lost your house in this fire, right?
No,
you didn't.
I lost everything in front of my house and most everything behind my house and like almost everything to the right and the left.
Wow.
Literally. Yeah.
How did you make just luck?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wish it was. I wish I did something. I wish I could claim something. I couldn't. I didn't do anything. There was burnt stuff on the roof of my house. I could see where it kind of got started. But everything in front of me is gone, and a lot of stuff behind me, and probably 50, 60%. Like, I was an outlier for sure. Like,
how many houses in your neighborhood burnt down? Most of them?
Oh,
Half
yeah.
of them?
Oh, yeah.
Most of them.
Well, yeah. So PCH, everything is gone. And, I would say I'm in the 10 percentile or something. Wow. Like, it was really, the odds were not good.
And you're still living in that house?
Yeah, after many months of being out. Yeah, but I'm building
not allowed to go back to your house? Or?
Yeah, had to flee that night, had to go stay at a hotel in Burbank or something, and then basically just watch the news. And I could see once in a while in the news they'd cut to a spot where you'd go, oh, that's the restaurant in front of it. And it was ablaze. Like, everything, every time they cut to something around my house, it was all on fire. So I was like in Burbank, and I was just sitting in a hotel room, and I was like, well, it's gone. It's gone for sure. And that's when the following day I did my podcast from the Burbank hotel room, because the winds were so strong that the power was out to my studio, but the power was on at this hotel I was in. So I just sort of set up in the living room of the hotel, and that's when I delivered my none of this shit's going to work speech, which is like, the difference. It was like the opposite of whatever Winston Churchill would have done. I would have done the opposite. Like, don't even try to build. The city's going to fuck you up. It's never going to work. And
you were right.
that was like 8 hours after the fire. I was like, you're not getting a permit and you're not rebuilding.